What if I told you that last year health inspectors walked into an ALDI store in East London and found mouse droppings scattered throughout the shop? The infestation was so severe they shut it down immediately. ALDI was fined over £300,000 and prosecuted for the first time in their history in the UK. They got caught selling frozen beef lasagna that contained 100% horse meat, found by food inspectors. But that's not even the worst part. Oxfam, the global organisation that investigates how corporations treat workers and farmers around the world, ranked every major UK supermarket on their ethical practices. Tesco scored over 50%. Sainsbury's and Co-op did even better. ALDI? They scored 1%. 1%. Dead last. The worst of any supermarket in Britain. I'm counting down 15 reasons why you need to be careful when shopping at ALDI. From hidden chemicals to mislabeled allergens to meat pumped full of water. Stay with me because number 5 is happening right now in ALDI stores across the entire country, and it involves pesticides that are banned in Europe but perfectly legal in your shopping basket. Number 15. The chicken that's almost 1/5 water. Let's start with something hiding in plain sight. You pick up a pack of frozen chicken breasts at ALDI. The price is unbeatable. You think you're getting a deal. But here's what they don't tell you. A Guardian investigation found that ALDI's own brand Brazilian chicken contained up to 18% water by weight. That's nearly 1/5 of what you're paying for. Not chicken, water. How do they do it? Through a process called tumbling. The chicken is placed in industrial machines and injected with a mixture of water, salt, phosphates, and dextrose. This bulks up the weight and makes the meat look plumper than it actually is. Now, ALDI did declare the added water on the label buried in the small print, but the Food Standards Agency itself admitted they weren't sure if this tumbling process was even legal under EU food law at the time. Here's what that means for you. You're paying chicken prices for salt water, and those phosphates they're injecting, they're linked to kidney problems and bone density issues, especially in older adults, whose bodies already struggle to process excess phosphorus. ALDI said they were taking the allegations very seriously. But that was over a decade ago, and the practice hasn't stopped. It's just become normal. So, next time you see that suspiciously cheap chicken, ask yourself, am I buying meat or am I buying a chemistry experiment? Number 14. The Salmonella pattern. ALDI recalled their Roosters Southern Fried Pop-In Chicken and Roosters Breaded Pop-In Chicken because they may have contained Salmonella. In June 2021, they recalled Roosters Breaded Chicken Goujons. Same reason, Salmonella detected. In May 2022, they recalled their Eat Plus Go Chicken and Bacon Caesar Wraps. Possible Salmonella contamination. 3 years in a row, the same type of contamination, the same category of products. Salmonella isn't a minor inconvenience. For seniors, it can cause severe dehydration, bloodstream infections, and in serious cases, it can be fatal. Food Safety News reported these recalls alongside UK outbreaks where nearly 400 people fell ill, almost half of them children. Each individual recall gets treated as an isolated incident, but when you line them up year after year, you start to see a pattern. Either ALDI's poultry supply chain has a systemic problem, or their quality control isn't catching contamination before it reaches your kitchen. The EU has some of the strictest Salmonella controls in the world. The UK's approach? React after people get sick. Former ALDI staff have spoken publicly about the pressure they face to work at extreme speeds. When employees are scanning over 1,000 items per hour just to keep their jobs, how much attention do you think goes into checking whether that chicken looks right? Number 13. The Allergen Roulette. If you or someone you love has a food allergy, this section could save a life. ALDI has been forced to recall product after product for undeclared allergens. We're not talking about occasional mistakes. We're talking about a pattern that spans years. January 2023, Harvest Morn high protein bars, recalled because the labels failed to mention milk, peanuts, or soya. August 2023, the Deli salami selection and continental selection pulled from shelves. Undeclared milk hiding in the salami. October 2023, Ready Set Cook teriyaki beef stir-fry, recalled because wheat wasn't listed on the label. For someone with celiac disease, that's not an inconvenience. That's internal damage to their intestines. November 2024, vegetable bao buns recalled for containing sesame and duck that weren't mentioned anywhere on the packaging. December 2025, dairy fine salted caramel gonks and crispy choc ums pulled after tests found peanuts that weren't on the label. The Food Standards Agency doesn't mince words. Each notice warns these products pose a possible health risk for anyone with an allergy. For a child with a peanut allergy, eating one of those chocolates could trigger anaphylaxis within minutes. For an elderly person with a milk intolerance, that salami could mean days of severe digestive distress. ALDI issues the recalls, puts up notices in stores, and moves on. But how many people ate those products before the recall was announced? How many customers never saw the warning? Number 12. The pesticide loophole they exploit. Here's something most shoppers never think about. The fruit and vegetables at ALDI might look fresh and healthy, but what's been sprayed on them? A 2019 investigation found that ALDI was one of the only UK supermarkets still allowing bee-toxic neonicotinoid insecticides in their imported produce. These are pesticides that the European Union banned because of the damage they do to pollinator populations. But it's not just about bees. If a chemical is potent enough to collapse bee colonies, what do you think it does inside your body when you eat an apple that's been sprayed with it? The Pesticide Action Network ranked UK supermarkets on their efforts to reduce hazardous chemicals. Marks & Spencer and Waitrose led the pack. ALDI, near the bottom, alongside Iceland. Here's what makes this worse. ALDI claims their UK produce conforms to maximum residue levels. But after Brexit, the UK has been quietly loosening those limits. What was illegal 2 years ago might be perfectly acceptable now. And ALDI doesn't just sell you produce sprayed with these chemicals. According to reports, they still spray pesticides around their own stores and car parks to control weeds. You're walking through chemical residue just to get your groceries. Some competitors, like Waitrose, have already removed garden pesticides from their shelves entirely. ALDI hasn't. For seniors, whose bodies don't detoxify as efficiently as they used to, these chemicals accumulate over time. Studies have linked long-term pesticide exposure to Parkinson's disease, memory problems, and increased cancer risk. ALDI could demand better from their suppliers. They choose not to. Number 11. The ready meal salt bomb. Let's talk about those convenient frozen meals. The ones that cost £2 and feed you for an evening. Action on Salt, a health campaign group, analysed ready meals from every major UK supermarket in 2025. Their findings were disturbing. 70% of ALDI's own label ready meals were classified as high in salt. That's the highest rate of any supermarket, except Iceland. But wait, it gets worse. 51% of ALDI's ready meals were also high in saturated fat. That's the worst saturated fat rate of any supermarket they tested. Let me put that in perspective. 1 in 5 ALDI frozen meals contains more salt than an adult should eat in an entire day. If you're eating these meals regularly, you're not saving money. You're spending it on future blood pressure medication. The NHS recommends adults consume less than 6 grams of salt per day. High sodium intake raises blood pressure, which increases your risk of heart attacks and strokes. For someone over 60 who might already have cardiovascular concerns, these meals are a slow-motion health crisis. ALDI advertises some of their ranges as healthier options, but they don't publish comprehensive nutrition data broken down by product the way some competitors do. The UK's approach is voluntary guidelines that companies can ignore. When a meal costs £2 and tastes good, there's usually a reason. That reason is often salt, sugar, and fat hiding in quantities your body was never designed to handle. Number 10. The clean label deception. This one is about the words on the packaging that make you feel safe when you shouldn't. You see no artificial preservatives and think you're buying something natural. But a 2025 investigation by the Real Bread campaign found that ALDI, like many supermarkets, uses a clever loophole. Some of their bread contains something called fermented wheat flour. Sounds wholesome, doesn't it? Almost artisanal. Here's what it actually is. The wheat flour is fermented with specific bacteria to produce propionic acid, which is a preservative. Because it's created through fermentation rather than added directly, they don't have to call it an additive. ALDI even admits this on their website. They explain that fermented wheat flour is made by fermenting wheat flour with specific bacteria to extend shelf life. So, no artificial preservatives is technically true, but you're still eating a preservative. It's just hidden under a nicer name. Number 9. The hygiene prosecution that made history. I mentioned this in the opening, but you need to hear the full story. In April 2020, a customer at the ALDI store in Leighton, East London, found mouse droppings on an unwrapped Easter egg. When they reported it, environmental health officers came to inspect. What they found was appalling. Mouse droppings throughout the entire store, not just in one area. In the bakery section, on dairy displays, in packaged food aisles. Inspectors found gaps in the structure where rodents were getting in and nesting material, which means the mice weren't just visiting, they were living there. The store was shut down immediately for deep cleaning. In late 2024, ALDI pleaded guilty to failing to control pests. The court fined them £64,000 plus £241,000 in costs, over £300,000 total. This was ALDI's first ever hygiene prosecution in the UK. For a company that likes to boast about their 99% pass rate on food hygiene inspections, that one failure tells you something important. Regulators called the infestation appalling. And remember, this was a major London store. Thousands of customers shopped there. One failed store might seem like an outlier, but it proves that even the most budget-conscious supermarket can let standards slip when no one's watching. Number 8. The kill date scandal. In 2017, undercover journalists filmed inside a factory called Two Sisters Food Group, one of the UK's largest chicken suppliers. What they captured was shocking. Workers were altering the slaughter dates on chicken, the so-called kill dates, to make meat appear fresher than it actually was. This wasn't a rogue employee, it was happening systematically. Two Sisters supplied chicken to multiple supermarkets, including ALDI. When the footage went public, ALDI responded immediately. They suspended all sourcing from that plant and announced an urgent investigation. But here's the question nobody asked loudly enough. How long had this been going on before the cameras arrived? How many times did you buy chicken from ALDI thinking it was freshly processed when it was actually days older than the label claimed? The EU banned the supplier. The UK issued guidance. After the scandal broke, former supermarket staff spoke publicly about the pressure that discount retailers put on their suppliers. When you're constantly demanding lower prices, something has to give. Sometimes it's wages, sometimes it's working conditions, and sometimes it's the date stamp on your chicken. ALDI says they have rigorous supplier oversight, but they didn't catch this until journalists with hidden cameras did their job for them. Number 7. The lookalike legal problem. Have you ever noticed how ALDI's own brand products look remarkably similar to famous brands? That's not an accident. It's a deliberate strategy, and it's gotten them into legal trouble. In 2025, ALDI lost a court case over their cloudy lemon cider. The Court of Appeal found that the label intentionally evoked the packaging of Thatcher's popular cider, giving ALDI an unfair advantage by piggybacking on another brand's reputation. That same year, Mondelez, the company that makes Oreo and Ritz, sued ALDI in the US for trade dress infringement. They argued that ALDI's cookie and cracker packaging was so similar it was confusing customers. ALDI's whole pitch is, like brands, only cheaper. But there's a line between inspiration and imitation. When courts start ruling against you, you've crossed it. Why does this matter for food safety? Because when you pick up an ALDI product thinking it's basically the same as the brand you trust, you're making assumptions about quality that might not be true. That lookalike packaging creates a mental shortcut. You see familiar colors and shapes, and your brain fills in the rest. But the ingredients inside might be completely different. The sourcing might be different. The quality controls might be different. You're not buying the brand. Number 6. The antibiotic gap. Here's something you probably never thought to ask. How much antibiotics are in the meat you're buying? Routine preventative antibiotic use in livestock is one of the biggest drivers of antibiotic resistance, which the World Health Organization calls one of the greatest threats to global health. Some UK supermarkets have responded by imposing outright bans on routine antibiotic use in their supply chains. Co-op did it, Marks & Spencer did it, Waitrose did it. ALDI? According to campaign groups monitoring this issue, ALDI has not imposed a full ban. They rely on veterinary oversight rather than prohibition. What's the difference? A ban means antibiotics are only used to treat sick animals. Oversight means they can still be used preventively, routinely, across healthy animals, just with a vet signing off. Every time you eat meat from animals raised on routine antibiotics, you're contributing to a system that's making these life-saving drugs less effective. When you get an infection 20 years from now, the antibiotics your doctor prescribes might not work because we overused them on chickens. This isn't speculation. The science is settled. The EU took action years ago. Some UK supermarkets stepped up voluntarily. ALDI chose a different path. They could match their competitors' standards. They simply don't. Number 5. The pesticides that are banned in Europe but legal in your basket. I told you to stay for this one. This is happening right now, today, in every ALDI store in the country. Neonicotinoids are a class of insecticides that scientists have linked to the collapse of bee populations worldwide. The evidence was so overwhelming that the European Union banned their use on flowering crops in 2018. But the UK isn't in the EU anymore. According to a 2019 NGO investigation, ALDI was one of the only UK supermarkets still permitting these bee-toxic chemicals in their imported produce. And the 2024 Pesticide Action Network report showed they're still trailing at the bottom of the supermarket league for reducing hazardous pesticides. Here's why this matters to you personally. A 2024 government analysis found that imported foods carry twice as many pesticide residues as British-grown produce. ALDI relies heavily on imports to keep prices low. That means the affordable fruit and vegetables in your basket may have been sprayed with chemicals that wouldn't be legal if they'd been grown down the road. For seniors, the risk compounds. Your liver and kidneys are already working harder than they used to. Pesticide residues that a younger body might flush out can accumulate in yours. Over years of shopping at ALDI, eating their produce daily, those small exposures add up. Meanwhile, Waitrose and Co-op have removed garden pesticides from their shelves entirely. Number 4. The Oxfam verdict. Let's go back to that 1% score because it deserves its own section. Oxfam is one of the most respected humanitarian organizations in the world. When they investigate supply chains, they're looking at how the workers who grow and process your food are being treated. They examine wages, working conditions, transparency, and whether companies are actively preventing exploitation. In 2018, Oxfam published a scorecard ranking every major UK supermarket. The results were damning for ALDI. Tesco scored over 50%. Sainsbury's did well. The Co-op performed strongly on labour standards. ALDI scored 1%. 1%. The worst of any UK supermarket. The investigation found that ALDI's policies only require paying the legal minimum wage to suppliers' workers, not a living wage. They found no meaningful commitments to banning exploitative contracts, nothing addressing gender-based violence in supply chains. ALDI relies on unverified social audits rather than robust due diligence. Fruit growers' unions accused ALDI of pressuring Latin American banana suppliers to cut prices so aggressively that it drove down wages and environmental standards in those countries. That cheap bunch of bananas at ALDI? Someone, somewhere, paid the real price. They just didn't charge you for it. ALDI has published human rights statements since 2018. Campaign groups say these are minimal and lack the transparency of competitors. The fundamental model hasn't changed. Relentless price pressure passed down the supply chain until it lands on the people who can least afford it. Number 3. The checkout pressure cooker. Let's talk about what happens at the till. A former ALDI deputy store manager spoke publicly to national media about what working there was really like. According to his account, checkout staff were required to scan at least 1,000 items per hour. That's one item every 3 to 4 seconds. If they didn't hit that target, they faced performance warnings. Consistent failure could lead to dismissal. He described feeling like a robot. He said he witnessed colleagues pushed so hard they had mental breakdowns. ALDI dismissed his claims as unrepresentative of our 29,000 colleagues. But the account matches what many customers experience: that rushed feeling at checkout, the pressure to pack faster, the sense that you're holding someone up if you take too long. When staff are under that much pressure, when their job depends on speed above all else, what gets sacrificed? Attention to detail, care, the extra second to notice that a pack of chicken looks off or that a label seems wrong. The same company culture that demands 1,000 scans per hour from cashiers is the company culture that shapes decisions about supplier contracts. Number 2. The store psychology designed against you. This one isn't about safety, it's about manipulation. ALDI's stores are carefully designed to make you buy more while thinking less. Consumer psychology experts have documented exactly how it works. The narrow aisles, Products displayed in flat cardboard trays, minimal signage, no frills. It all reduces what researchers call cognitive load, which makes shopping feel fast and simple. When your brain isn't processing lots of information, you're more likely to make impulse decisions. You're less likely to read labels carefully. You're more likely to grab something and move on without checking the ingredients or the expiry date. When you're being scanned at 1,000 items an hour, you don't have time to question whether that reduced price meat is actually a bargain or a liability. And those middle aisles with the random special offers, the kettles and garden furniture and toys, that's deliberate. It gets you in the store, browsing. Once you're there and your guard is down, you pick up food items you didn't plan to buy. None of this is illegal. Every supermarket uses psychological tricks. But ALDI's entire model is built on speed and simplicity, which happen to be the exact conditions where you're least likely to notice the problems we've been discussing. They're not just selling you cheap food, they're selling you an environment where you won't ask too many questions. Number 1. The post-Brexit loopholes. Here's the biggest picture. After Brexit, the UK gained the ability to set its own food standards. In theory, that could mean higher standards, tailored to British needs. In practice, it's opened the door to things the EU would never allow: chlorine-washed chicken, hormone-treated beef, relaxed pesticide limits, weaker labelling requirements. In 2020, ALDI publicly committed not to stock lower welfare imports like chlorine-washed chicken, aligning with EU standards. They made the same promise about hormone-treated beef. That's commendable. But here's what they didn't commit to. The UK has already loosened maximum residue levels for certain pesticides. ALDI hasn't promised to hold their suppliers to the old EU limits. The UK allows labelling practices that would be illegal in Europe. ALDI hasn't committed to European standard transparency. Every regulatory gap that opens up is an opportunity for cost-cutting. And ALDI's entire business model is built on cutting costs. Maybe they'll maintain standards voluntarily. Maybe the pressure of competition will keep them honest. But when I look at everything in this video, the horse meat scandal, the mouse infestation, the allergen failures, the kill date fraud, the pesticide gaps, the 1% ethics score, I see a pattern. If UK standards slip further, ALDI won't be the company that holds the line. They'll be the company that takes advantage. Look, I'm not saying you should never shop at ALDI again, but I am saying you deserve to know what you're actually paying for. That cheap price tag has hidden costs. Costs in food safety risks, costs in worker treatment, costs in environmental damage, costs that might show up in your health years from now. Before your next trip, take 2 minutes. Look up your local ALDI's food hygiene rating on the Food Standards Agency website. It's free, it's public, and it might change where you shop. Read the labels, check the dates. Don't assume that cheap means safe. You've worked too hard and lived too long to gamble your health on a company that scores 1% on ethics. If this video opened your eyes, share it with someone who shops at ALDI. They deserve to know too. Drop a comment and tell me, have you noticed any of these issues at your local store? I want to hear your stories. And if you want more videos exposing what's really happening in the supermarkets you trust, hit subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.